Maverick. Noun, unusual person. A visionary, leader, go-getter, an independent thinker. They see the vision for their life and pull that future towards them with an unyielding belief that things can and must be better. They achieve what most won't. Innovative, influential, daring, and direct, with a remarkably high tolerance for taking calculated risk. A foe to the status quo. This is Passive Real Estate Investing with Mavericks. Your host, Neil Timmins, has been involved with over $300 million in real estate transactions. He's a published author, commercial property investor, and real estate syndicator. This show is for those who want to learn how to earn passive income through real estate investing. Now, here's your host, Neil Timmins.
Welcome to Passive Real Estate Investing with Mavericks podcast, where we provide actionable steps for you to help grow your passive income and become job optional. During this episode, you're going to discover the benefits of seller financed deals and really what that means. So for all those who are new here to the podcast, I'm your host, Neil Timmins, and I love passive income from real estate. Before I introduce you to today's Maverick, I want to make a request that at any point, if you like what you're hearing, please give us a thumbs up or subscribe to the show to never miss an episode. And if you love what you hear, give us a written review. Plus, be sure to take a look at the description and the show notes, that we packed it with thousands of dollars in free resources. So today, we've got the privilege to learn from a person who is absolutely passionate about creating systems and structures inside of his business. Prior to his career in real estate, he was a consultant with Microsoft, but that all changed when he grew tired of the corporate job. I would describe this person, this Maverick, as somebody who's passionate about creating systems and structures and about seller financing. I want to introduce you all to today's Maverick, Gabe Petersen. Gabe, how are you?
Neil, thanks for having me on.
Man, it's good to see you. It's been a bit.
It has.
We saw each other in person when it's probably been almost 6 months now in St. Louis. That was the last time we were connected in person. So I'm excited
to that self-storage facility. Gotta love it.
Yeah, dude. So I'm excited. We're here digitally, and let's do this for people who don't know you like I know you. Who are you? Where are you from? What do you do?
All right. Yeah, I'm Gabe Petersen. I am an investor like yourself, and I also have a podcast, Real Estate Investing Club. I focus in on self-storage, mobile home park, RV parks. That's the 30-second version.
Where are you out of? What section of the country?
Out in Seattle, so West Coast.
Yeah. Tell me, dude, let's start here. Tell me about the very first commercial deal you bought.
Perfect. Yeah. The first commercial deal is always kind of a scary one, I feel like. So my story started in single family. And I was, working corporate at Microsoft, didn't want to be in Microsoft. And so I was like, I got to find a way out. I started e-commerce companies. I started digital marketing companies. I was doing all this stuff, but it wasn't working. Eventually I flipped a house and I got into, single family, wholesaling, flipping, that kind of stuff, for a while, but I knew that it wasn't the path out of where I was. I didn't want to be working corporate, nothing on corporate. Corporate's a good life for a lot of people, but it wasn't for me. Needed to find that path out. And from single family, from my perspective, it just wasn't going to get me to where I wanted to be. If you're flipping, that is a full-time job. There are some flippers who are crushing it out there, and those guys, you guys are amazing, but takes a lot of capital, and I knew it wasn't something that was going to get me there. And then buying rentals, especially here in Seattle, it's just like each rental is $400,000, and so it didn't make any sense. So I started thinking about commercial first in multifamily. I picked up some books, got a course, and I started down that path, and I started meeting people. I went to like meetups and shaking hands, talking to people who were doing it. Eventually I found a partner who was trying to get into mobile home parks, and he was kind of at the same level that I was. And so we were like, let's do this. Let's buy one. Started doing off-market marketing, sending out letters, calling people, cold calling, Eventually, we got in contact with somebody out here in Washington who owned a 27 unit mobile home park that had a huge expansion potential in George, Washington. And he gave us seller financing. And I love seller financing. Doesn't matter what kind of asset it is. Love it. He gave us great terms. I think it was like 3.6% interest. And this was when the interest rates were actually, that was market.
Or more norm. Yeah.
Right. So he gave us, great terms at low interest rate with 10% down. I had just done some flips, so I had some money in my bank. We pulled the money together, bought the park, and that was the first one. It was a learning experience. It was in rough shape. We did a lot of our own work to the park, and eventually we had to replace sewer lines and all that stuff. But mobile home park, 27 units out in George. That was the first one.
How'd you find that deal?
That was a letter, a direct mail, I believe.
Direct to the seller from a marketing campaign you were doing.
Yeah. We were doing a lot of stuff at that time. We were doing RVMs, we were doing texting, and we were doing direct mail. RVM is ringless voicemail. For anybody who doesn't know, it's you just basically send out a voicemail to somebody. It hits their phone, but it doesn't ring, and so it just goes straight to their voicemail. We were doing a lot of those, and they're really cheap, and that's why we were doing them. But I think this one came through RVMs or direct mail. I can't remember which one, but yeah, the owner of the park. If anybody's in Washington and I'm sure you've heard of George, it's just this dot of a little city in the middle of Washington. And it was the owner that owned this park. He basically owned the entire city because he originally planned to create a themed city in like colonial style themed city. He bought it. He's a big time potato farmer out here, and Washington State is, I think we're the biggest producers behind Idaho of potatoes.
Okay.
So he was a big time dude. He wanted to make a themed city, didn't end up doing it. He had all this land in George, all this property, and this is just one small thing for him. We got a great deal. I think we bought it for like $450,000, which now in today's market, that's half. I mean, I'm sure that we just got it appraised. It was appraised at like 1.3 million. So we got a great deal, and yeah.
Tell me more about seller financing. What for the listeners who may not know what that is, maybe compare or contrast that against traditional bank financing.
Yeah, seller financing is great for both parties in my mind, for buyers and sellers. First, it allows you to get deals done that otherwise wouldn't be able to get done. I mean, especially if you're talking about assets that don't have high occupancy. And so it's low occupancy. Banks don't want to touch that. And so they can give you seller financing. You can negotiate the terms. You can negotiate the amortization schedule. So usually you get a 25-year amortization schedule with a bank. You can make that shorter. You can make that longer. You can take out the principal payment and just have an interest only, which is what you and I did for that self-storage facility out in Indiana. Great setup. And so the seller benefits because he gets to be the bank, and everybody wants to be the bank. Like a bank is the position to be in. You're just getting interest payments for nothing. You just get them coming to you. And so the seller gets to be the bank. It makes the transaction much smoother. You don't have to get an appraisal, although, sometimes it is good to do that, but you don't have to go through all the hoops that a traditional bank would require you to jump through. The seller gets the interest payments. You get to negotiate the terms. And usually you can, by pulling the levers on the terms, you can hit everybody's requirements. So if the seller wants a higher price point than you think the property is worth, you can pull the levers on the interest rates, on the amortization schedule, to get it to their high price point. And we actually did that with the second commercial property I bought. An RV park in Eastern Washington. Seller wanted a little bit higher than we thought, and he had this requirement. He said, I want $5,000 a month. That's just it. And so we said, okay, we can make that work. We reduced the interest rate. It was like 2.87% is what we ended up getting, but we boosted the price. And he was happy, we were happy, and we were able to close it.
Yeah, there's a bunch of levers that can get pulled there because things can be very fluid. And ultimately, it's a wide open landscape as to what one can put together. Just one can put together anything that two parties agree to in this world as it relates to seller financing.
Yep, exactly.
Tell me about your most recent deal.
Excluding wholesales, the most recent deal was that I actually purchased and added to the portfolio was actually the Indiana deal that you and I did.
Oh, the deal we did together. Yeah.
And it was self-storage facility. And this was, I'm just going to run through it. I know you know it, but I'm going to tell everybody else.
Absolutely. They want to hear it. Yeah.
So it's a self-storage facility out in Indianapolis. I found this deal, brought it to Neil, and I was like, Neil, you want to partner on this? He brought the capital. I brought the deal. And we both flew out there to check it out. It was a 100, I should know this off the top of my head, 150-ish units. I don't know if that's the exact number, but 152. Yeah.
Yes, it was. You were right on.
It was 152 units, but there was the upside in that only half of the lot was utilized. And so there's this massive just grass field right now, but it's super flat and it's already permitted for expansion. The original buyer or the original builder had only built half of the units or the buildings, and he left this empty half. So it's already, primed to expand. And so we looked at that. We were like, this is great. But the seller wanted a little bit higher price than we thought it was worth, 1.4 million, which was, we just talked about this. Seller financing comes in crucial in this kind of situation because it allows you to get the deal done. So we talked about seller financing with him. We offered him interest only seller financing. He accepted. So we were able to get the deal done, and now we have it. It's cash flowing, and we still, we're down the line. We're going to be able to build out that second half of the lot and increase the value.
Yeah. So seller financing went in place on that at 5% interest only, which I think at the time was pretty close to market. Now all of a sudden 5% is freaking steal 9 months later, or whatever it has been. 5% interest only for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
20 years.
I forgot about that. Yep. 20 years.
So I'm with you. I love the seller financing when you can structure it in such a way that it creates wins for both parties. But I think, I would take that deal all day long, that to lock in a 5% fixed rate for 20 years. I think we win in a big way, especially in today's inflationary environment.
Yep.
But turn the table. What was it that appealed to that particular seller? Why did some people are like, well, that sounds good from the buyer standpoint, but why from a seller standpoint that would even get them to go, yes, that sounds great.
Well, yeah, the seller, it was a win-win in that situation. The seller is at a point in his life. He's actually not that old, but he was at a point in his life where he wanted to retire. He didn't want to work. And so he had this goal, his, monthly cash flow goal that he wanted to receive for, ad infinitum, just as long as he could, that he needed to live. And, that was the amount that he wanted. I think the mortgage payment is $5,000 a month, and that's interest. So it's just a payment to him every month. And it fit his goals. He has a yacht or a skiff or something, and he goes out in the Caribbean and just trolleys around and lives his best life. So yeah, it fit what his life goals were at the moment. It fit our goals. So it was a win-win.
And from you said, the seller ultimately comes to the bank. I'll take it a step further. It's a better position from the bank in this regard. When a bank goes and makes the loan, they have to rely on a third-party appraisal and a whole bunch of understanding of what the market is and what that property is. When it comes to this particular seller, nobody knows his property better than him or her, right? And so in this case, he loved the collateral of the property in which he's owned for 10 plus years and understands every nuance of that property. He's thought, what? I'd rather lend on this property than any other property that exists.
Yep, exactly.
Take me back. So between the first deal of the George Washington, which is hilarious, I can see why the the potato farmer, loved the idea of going to a colonial environment with the name of George, the city of George
I wish
in
you would have
Washington.
done it. That would have been pretty cool.
Oh, it would put it on the map in a big way. Yeah. So between that and the most recent one, which we executed, what were the biggest learnings? What were the biggest lessons in between those two?
Oh yeah. I bought, a couple more self-storage facilities, RV parks, and a lot of learnings. Let's see the biggest ones. I mean, first there's capital. You should have capital ready before you find the deal. That's kind of an obvious, but it's just something that kind of popped up. When I was looking for things, I kind of realized that in a more concrete way. But then also a metro. Like when I look at properties, the metro is one of the first thing I look at. Does it have a positive positive growth? How's the job market? What's the economies of the market look like? That's all important, but it's also very, very, very important to know not just how the metro is doing, but where your property is located specifically. Like within that metro, you can have, a 20+% growth in a metro and have it on the wrong corner, and your property is going to be vandalized, at night and day. You're going to be spending all your money on, which, I went through a huge vandalism at one of my self-storage facilities. Luckily it turned out well. It's, it's still a good deal, but had I known specifically that, the intricacies of that market, that corner, I probably would have gone about it a little bit differently. And so, having capital lined up and then having more capital than you think you need. Because when I bought a few of the properties, I had a list of repairs that I wanted to do, but I had, there was a longer list, and I was like, oh, I'll do that later once cash flow comes. But I would prefer to buy a property, have all of the repairs that I would like to be done at the very beginning, and then just roll that into the capital needed for the project. That's a big one. And then just knowing exactly the metro that you're investing in, know where the good areas are, and what to expect once you actually purchase that property.
What one attribute or habit do you possess that's had the greatest impact in your business career?
Man, I asked this on my podcast too, and I swear to God, everybody has the same answer, and it's my answer too. Is just grit.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't give up, and I just keep going. And I feel like that is the number one thing that separates me from other people that I've seen have tried to go down the same path that I'm going down. They run into hiccups, they run into issues, and then they stop. But if you just keep going, eventually you're going to hit where you want to go. And so, being able to just, push through it and not giving up, especially when you're looking for deals, that's the biggest grind in real estate is finding good deals. And so when you're told 1,000 times no, and then that 1,001st time you get a yes, that's real estate. That's finding success in real estate. And so being able to do that is probably the thing that got me to where I am.
You used a word that's important there. Good. Finding good deals, because anybody can find a deal, but it's about finding a good deal. So tell me about that. What's a good deal look like? So tell me a little about when you're looking for something, what are you looking after? What makes it particularly good? Past the dollars and cents, just hitting a bucket and return, what in that property stands out versus just a deal?
The very first thing I do whenever I see anything come across my plate is I look at the metro. I know I already talked about this, but first thing I do is I make sure that it's located in a good place. There's a lot that goes into that. It doesn't have to be the specific city. Maybe it has a negative, net migration. And if it's not too negative, it still might be a good deal depending on its location and proximity to other major metros. So if it's in, 30 minutes from downtown Dallas and it has a negative 0.5% net migration, that's still, it's still worth looking at. That is definitely the first thing that I look at. And sorry, can you repeat the question again? Inside of
what separates a deal from a good deal. So what are you looking for? What makes it good?
Yeah. So if it's in a good metro is the first thing. That's the first criteria. It has to pass. If it doesn't pass that, not worth looking at. Second thing is there needs to be upside, or there there has to be some type of upside. If it's an upside can take many forms. Vacancy is technically an upside, because if you have it at a 10% occupancy and there's that 90% vacancy that you can fill, that is an upside, so long as that's reflected in the price. Things that you can do to the property to increase the rates that you're charging. So, I mean, it depends on what kind of asset you're looking at, but for self-storage, it'll be things like automatic gates, security cameras, even making it just look better. If you have a really poor looking facility and the rates are lower, you could probably, a coat of paint goes a long way, especially when it comes to self-storage, in allowing you to increase those rates. Management is huge. If you're looking at their P&L and their expenses are just crazy, that's a good opportunity to increase the rate or increase the NOI. And then things like expansion is always something to look at. I don't do multifamily, but I've talked to a bunch of guys in multifamily. There are so many ways to increase the NOI. And so just looking for ways NOI is really all you're trying to increase there. And so, yeah, that's
what I hear you saying is identify a solid area. And then within that, you're seeking ways, you're looking for a value add component or components. Find ways to drive the value up, drive money to the bottom line, increase the NOI, net operating income, and then ultimately get a multiplier effect on the value of that property.
Yep, exactly. Oh, and then the other things, seller financing is one thing. There's like cherries on top that you can find in a deal.
Absolutely.
And that obviously can turn a bad deal to a good deal.
And sometimes you hit it. You don't need all of them. Sometimes it's just, one of these is enough to make it. If you didn't have anything what you just said, but had appropriate seller financing, it could easily go to a home run.
Yep.
Yeah. So it sounds like it just depends. All right. So RV parks, mobile home parks, self-storage, pick one.
I'm going to have to say self-storage. I like self-storage a lot. It's fun. RV parks, mobile home parks are good. So the RV park that I own it's a long-term stay, so it behaves like a mobile home park.
Yep.
So I can't say that I really have experience in true RV parks. I think an actual RV park would be a lot of fun. It's more of a business though, and so you have to have more staff, all that kind of stuff. I don't know how much, depending on the market and how easy it is to find good staff. That could be fun. But right now, I'm going to say self-storage.
Yeah. Tell me about when you connect with investors who put money in your deals. Tell me about your communication plan. How frequently do you keep people apprised about what's going on in the investment?
Yep. So we do monthly meetings that it depends on how involved the investor is, but monthly meetings with the property manager that the investor will be part of, and then quarterly reviews of just the performance of the property itself. And then outside of that, I'm just trying to make myself as open as possible. So if they want to shoot me a text, give me a call, shoot me an email, anything like that, just make sure to get all the questions answered.
Let's say a passive investor, they're looking to get into self-storage. What should they be looking for inside of a deal that gets presented to them?
First, obviously so many people say you bet on the horse, not the jockey, or the jockey, not the horse. I can't remember
the jockey.
What it is. Yeah. But you bet on the person who's actually running the deal. So if they have experience, that's number one thing. Have they done this before? Obviously everybody comes from a place of not having done it before. So it doesn't mean that it is horrible if they haven't, but experience, gives you a lot of wisdom. And so the number one thing is, have they done it before? And then I would always just underwrite it myself. Do I believe in the deal? The investor is going to present or the GP, the general partner, is going to present a case for the deal. It'll say like, this is why we think it's a good deal. It's located in X market. It has this seller financing. This is our plan to increase the occupancy, yada, yada, yada. Take that and kind of put it through your own thought process, your own due diligence. Try to understand whether you think it's a good deal or not. But yeah, if you believe in the jockey, if you believe in the person going out there and getting it done, the GP, that's the number one thing. And then do you believe in the deal? And that's those are the two things you need to care about.
What are you most excited about this year?
Well, on the non-business side, we're having our first kid, so I'm super excited about that.
Congrats, coming right up.
Yeah, that is a month or two away. But on the business side, there's a couple things. First is just buying more deals. I'm still looking at self-storage, trying to find more, good deals out there. So excited to do that. The goal this year is 100,000 net rentable square feet to add to the portfolio. Some people that's a lot, some people that's a little. That's what I'm going for, 100,000 net rentable. So excited about that. And then the podcast, we're still doing that, having more guests on. It's just something that I really like doing. And so, that's those are the goals.
Let's do this. I want to move on to the final segment, what I call the final four. What do you think holds most passive investors back from hitting their personal next level, whatever that happens to be?
Whenever I find that I'm not hitting my goals, it's usually there's something I don't know. And that's usually solved by talking with somebody who's been there, who's done what you want to do. And so if you're an LP, you're trying to invest in other deals and you're not hitting your goals, you just don't know the way forward. It is great to talk to people who have done that. So go out, talk to other LPs, people who have their fingers in a lot of deals, and then talk to GPs, talk to people who are actually making the deals get done, and figure out where you want to put your capital, where you want to deploy your capital. There's a lot of opportunity out there. It doesn't matter if the market's up or down. You can always find good deals. And so it's just about trying to find the right fit for you.
Outside of real estate, what are you most passionate about?
Outside of real estate, real estate does take a lot of my time, but outside of real estate, it's just friends and family. My girlfriend and I, and all my friends really, we like board games. We have a board game night every week. In fact, my girlfriend and I are creating a board game ourselves. We realized it's actually not that hard to do, and so we've been creating our own board game on the side. Which
I can't wait to hear more about that.
Yeah, it might be launched this year. We'll see. Board games are a lot of fun, but it's our excuse to get people together. So just getting with other people. I do jiu-jitsu. I haven't done it in a while, just because I've been working on business. So it's mostly going to the gym, hanging out with friends and family, and then business.
Your favorite book?
If you had talked to me when I was 20 years old, I would have said Atlas Shrugged. That was that was that time of my life. But now my favorite book, I've always really liked Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. It's just like a solid, I just like really small snippets of good wisdom. And it's a good book that I can just pick up, read a page, and feel like I got something. Yeah. And so I really like that book. And man, I have not been reading a lot recently. I think I'm going to stick with that. Meditations, Marcus Aurelius.
What's your favorite way to make an impact in the community?
Favorite way to make an impact in the community. I don't do a lot of volunteering or anything like that. And most of my time is spent with friends and family. And so that is my community. And my favorite way to make an impact in their lives is to be present, to, go out of my way to kind of interact with them and make their day better. And so, my community is my friends and my family, and just being a positive influence in their lives, trying to push them to go forward, and just be with them.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. This is a fun conversation, and a fun conversation to get into on seller financing, because it's unique. It can have a heck of a huge impact inside of an investment, and I think it's something I suspect that moving forward in this kind of rising interest rate environment that we're still in, is that it's going to become more prevalent in getting deals done and put together. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I hope so, man. Right now I still feel like seller expectations have not met market in terms of interest rates.
Yeah.
But I will hope that becomes more aligned. I've talked to a bunch of people, and they think that interest rates are going to keep going up They think it'll stabilize around 9, and I have no idea. But if it is, 7% on interest rate is a huge difference than 3%. And so there has to be some kind of meeting ground. And so I'm hoping for some seller financing. That's the one thing that we try to push through here.
Yeah, no, that's great. For people, they want to find you, they want to follow you, they want to connect with you, they want to find the podcast. Where can they go? What should they do?
Yeah, best way is realestateinvestingclub.com, therealestateinvestingclub.com. You can find everything there. The links to anything you want, you can find it there. Links to Apple, Spotify, yada, yada, yada. It's all there. Or you can email me, gabe@therealestateinvestingclub.com.
Perfect. Links will be below in the show notes for everybody. Gabe, I appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
You bet. See you, bud. To our listeners, pat yourself on the back. You guys have made it to the end of the show, and most people never finish what they start. If you receive value from today's show, be sure to share it on LinkedIn, your Facebook page, or your social media platform of choice. Subscribe to never miss a valuable episode in the future. And if you found value in today's episode, give us a thumbs up with a positive review. If there's a particular topic you'd like to hear about, well, I want to hear from you. Shoot me a message on LinkedIn. The link to my profile is below in the show notes. You can connect with me there for more valuable content.